Where I want to start with today is addressing some questions that I already did receive, which were fantastic. I always say this to my students when they have questions. I always say this to my students when, I'll say, does anyone have any questions? And no hands go up. And so, does anyone have any questions? Like last call, and finally one hand goes up. The first thing I say is, thank you. Thank you for asking, because we don't know any better if we don't ask. And sometimes we have to ask something 2 or 3 times to make sure we're getting it right. And I truly believe that's okay, because I think it's better to ask to get it right than to think you know better and really have that right intention, but end up getting it wrong. We do that all our lives. Just think to being in a classroom where you had a test that you studied for and you were ready for it and you knew that you knew everything you needed to know for that test, and then you didn't get everything right on it. And it's such a defeated feeling. We are in a crucible of that right now, in a grandstanding way, because of the world we live in, because everything is so intertwined and interconnected, because so much goes out into the World Wide Web before we have a chance to have our closest friends and our closest trusted people, help us to figure out, are we doing things the right way? Are we navigating this the right way? And more often than not, we end up with backlash from every end of the world that we didn't see it coming, because we were coming from a less informed position. That's because we're human. Humans have to learn. Humans have to learn a lot more and a lot harder than I think any other living thing. We don't have a great unified instinct of being human beings. We have very separated instincts as human beings. Other living species don't have that issue as much. Their instincts are far more universal. So we have to acknowledge these things. We have to acknowledge our shortcomings. We have to acknowledge our bad habits. I always say that as singers, we have bad habits with our voices, and we have to work as vocalists to correct those. As human beings, we have bad habits with our lives, and we have to work to correct those. This is another time for working and for growing, and that's why we're here. So I thank you all for being here. I thank you for the questions.